What's up gamers, DreamcastGuy here, talking today about Xbox One because there's some theories going around about it that I think need to be talked about. There's been some discussion because, well, Sea of Thieves just came out and it kinda sucks. It's not very great and it seems like it's being heavily pushed as part of the Xbox Game Pass. Apparently, Microsoft is trying to use this as a huge marketing ploy just to see how many people they can get to subscribe to their service per month. Now, overall, I'm actually a pretty big fan of Xbox Game Pass. I think it's a great deal, but something about this in particular seems very, very fishy. And I'm not just saying that because it completely takes place on the ocean. Now, what some people are saying online that I find rather intriguing is it seems like this game was forced out a little bit ahead of schedule. To be quite frank, it is extremely lacking in content. There is no form of progression. You can't customize your boat, you can't customize your character, you can't really do anything other than buy some fancy clothes, which my character has. But if you actually listen to some of the interviews, it already sounds like they're planning big DLC, like stuff like pets that can actually do all sorts of different functions and join you in combat. Features like that seem like things that originally were probably going to be part of the main game, but Microsoft approached them and said, hey, we want this out early. We want it out at a time in which we can really try and advertise the Xbox Game Pass before we go into E3. The reason this is just kind of peculiar is because this game is clearly trying to be a vehicle for downloadable content. So when you get Xbox Game Pass, the games themselves are free and you have full access to them, but downloadable content is still sold separately. Which means for some reason if I downloaded Gears of War 4 with Xbox Game Pass, I would still have to buy a lot of the map packs if I want to compete online. It's an interesting way of making it where the games they've already created that probably aren't selling great anyways because they're being sold used online, it's a nice way to try and get extra money off of them by selling downloadable content. But the main thing I see people kind of whispering about is it seems like Microsoft is really hungry just to try and throw games out there to put into commercials. Sales of the Xbox One are not spectacularly high. In fact, apparently they're so low they've just stopped even officially confirming how many they've sold per month. So here's what I'm thinking. It seems like Microsoft, more than ever, is just hungry to put out anything. I feel like PUBG was a big example of that. They needed anything available for December just to try and get extra people in stores looking at their product. PlayerUnknown Battlegrounds was not ready for launch, and I say that for as somebody who played a lot of hours of it. When you parachuted onto the ground, the environments could hardly load at all, and by the time they did, it still ran like ass. I mean, seriously, most of the time when I was in firefights, it looked like a comic book slideshow because the game was just not complete, and very clearly so. It seems like Sea of Thieves is sort of having the same issue. It's a game that has some fantastic graphics, really good core ideas, but not enough content to really keep people engaged, except for if they start trying to sell you DLC down the road. Now, the reason I'm bringing all this up is because it worries me. Personally, I've been playing my Xbox One a ton over the course of the last 3 months. I mean, seriously, I've been doing a bunch of my reviews on it lately just because I really like the controller, and honestly, I feel like Xbox Live is a little bit more stable than PS4, so when I want to review a game with online multiplayer, I feel like I get into matches quicker and get a lot more headshots when I'm playing on this console. However, I do have some concerns that it seems like Microsoft is really trying to rush stuff at this point. I'm honestly very worried at this point about some of their upcoming projects. Crackdown 3 and State of Decay 2 both look really awesome, but only in trailers. I really kind of worry about the fact that if Microsoft is just so hungry to throw anything out there, they're going to be more hungry. So right now, there's definitely this extra little weird cloud hanging over it, which is Xbox Game Pass is really a strange system. Clearly, the goal that Microsoft clearly has in mind is for every single person who owns an Xbox One gets Xbox Game Pass. Now the reason why is because it'll make it where, say that there are 40 million people who have an Xbox One. That's a pretty decent number. However, getting 40 million people to pay $10 a month, now you're looking at $400 million going into your bank account every single month. That is a lot more valuable than just trying to sell a couple copies of Sea of Thieves at $60 each. Because keep in mind, that's what this originally was sold at. Right now, this is on store shelves for $60 in America. And let's face it, this is an experience that's not really worth $20. It's gorgeous, it's kind of fun with friends, but this is basically Destiny with no real guns, no real progression, and every single quest is identical. It definitely seems like right now Microsoft is trying to make it where they get more money per quarter by just trying to double down on their existing fan base. I feel like a lot of people forget that right now Microsoft seriously has some of the most hardcore fanboys on the planet. Whenever I review an Xbox game, if I give it a low score and they consider anything below an 8 a low score, they will tear me to shreds for months. Now, I'm not complaining about it. In fact, most of what they say is pretty silly and lighthearted, but it's still strange that there is such a die-hard community based around this console. Sony people don't have this quite as much. It seems like the Sony community is much more just trying to play games and really based on trophy hunting and Let's Plays and stuff. I don't see the Sony community quite as aggressive as the Xbox community. And it seems like Microsoft is really trying to cash in on that. And it could be a really smart business opportunity. But my fear is that they're going to be preying on these people. They're going to be trying to throw out stuff that isn't necessarily finished in an attempt to sell them stuff later as downloadable content. Crackdown 3 has some promise. It could be something that is really, really massive and cool and has lots of destructible pieces to it. But if they start selling you a separate island to play on just a month after release, we're going to start having some problems. My biggest fear right now is that Microsoft is slowly turning towards the dark side and becoming something like EA. Electronic Arts is all about trying to make that green. And up to this point, over the course of the last 2 years, Xbox has really been winning over a ton of people. They are constantly trying to update and change stuff about their platform to make it as easy as possible to develop for. And I think that some of the stuff they're doing is some crazy good innovation, like the so much of the game preview, the fact that there are actual early access games fully playable day one on the Xbox is pretty freaking amazing. But my fear is those games selling well and Xbox Game Pass taking off so much is starting to make the gears in their head turn, and they're realizing that maybe they don't need to obsess so much about finishing every game. Whenever they cancel a project, especially a big project like Scalebound, it costs them millions of dollars. Not only on development, but it loses customer trust. People get afraid about buying a console that doesn't have any new games. So what if they're starting to try and shift themselves to putting anything out, even if it's not quite done? I've already seen some people specifically say that Sea of Thieves is only an early access title, and I can't really say it's wrong. This is a very bare bones experience with some good core values to it. But it's more than anything a strong example of what not to do with Xbox Game Pass. If you want to get more people jumping on your platform and people actually showing off all the cool stuff it can do, release solid experiences. Release games that are finished, really good, and something that is worth yelling about from the rooftops. Reviewers like me are very open-minded to everything you're coming out with, and personally, I have a lot of Xbox exclusives, which are also going to be on PC, on my to-do list. Games I am greatly looking forward to playing. But if they are going to be flawed, rushed, or at all incomplete, that is all I'm going to be able to talk about. So do the right thing. Xbox Game Pass is a revolutionary idea, turning Netflix into a gaming service. It's strong. It's something that I don't think anybody else really has the cash to do except for you, Microsoft. But if you start trying to turn this into an extra way to sell microtransactions, loot crates, and DLC, This is a bomb that's going to be blowing up in your face and putting even more money in the pocket of Sony and Nintendo. Keep your development teams moving and keep new games coming out. But don't forget that a bad game is bad forever. A delayed game is perfection and screamed about from the rooftops. But this has just been my thoughts about, well, this whole fiasco going on with Games Pass and very specifically Sea of Thieves. But what do you think about it? Are you an Xbox owner, a PS4 owner, or a Switch owner? And do you like the idea of subscription-based services like this? The idea that you can just pay $10 a month and download hundreds of games is pretty appealing. In fact, I got Game Pass just recently, and I installed a bunch of Mega Man games because they have the Mega Man game collections on there, and I'm getting my butt kicked. But for $10 a month, I will gladly die in those games because it's just so interesting. But tell me your thoughts in the comments down below. If you like this video, please hit that thumbs up, share with your friends, and subscribe if you haven't already. But do me the biggest favor of all and keep dreaming. I keep having to press the controller button because if you stop moving for 5 minutes in Sea of Thieves, it immediately kicks you out. And the servers keep crashing, so if I get kicked out of a game, well, then I'm not going to have a cool background. So, yeah, Sea of Thieves, please fix your freaking servers and all the weird timeouts. It's a little bit annoying. Oh, hey, I was just playing a little bit of Grand Theft Auto on my Darth Vader PSP. Are you curious what I'm going to come out with next? Well, if you click this button, you'll be subscribed to be the first to know. Also, if you click over here and here, you can see my latest review and my latest top 10. I promise, it was super good. Or it was really bad and I'm sure you can just make fun of me in the comments. Either way, it'll be a lot of fun. Thanks so much for watching.